guys, welcome back. So what we want to cover today is bringing it all together. And the scripture we want to focus on today is Deuteronomy 31 verse 8. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord will personally go ahead of you. He will be with you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you. Well, I don't know about you, but sometimes this journey can be discouraging. It can be hard, and along the way, we lose courage. And sometimes it can be extremely overwhelming, especially if you can't see a way through it. And there are even times that we're going to feel abandoned during this journey, walking this journey with our kids with special needs. Right, so there are times that Brad and I have looked around, and it's usually in the midst of something hard, whether it's a long hospital stay, another doctor, a new diagnosis, and sometimes we just look around and feel like we feel abandoned. Sometimes we will go back to the scripture in Job that says, "Where are you, God? I'm not for sure where you are. I see you in the east and the west, but I don't feel you near us." And his promise is that when we come through this, we will be spun as gold. The same as this scripture. It encourages us to say, take heart. Do not be discouraged. Do not fear. Because God, the Lord, will personally go ahead of you. I use that a lot when we are fixing to walk in to another challenging time. There are so many times that the only way I had courage to walk through that door again is only because I knew that God had actually entered that room before we did. And sometimes that's all we need to kind of get rid of that, to help with that fear, is just have faith that no matter what we're fixing to hear, no matter what's fixing to happen, that God entered that room prior to us coming in. And at the age we're at, we're able to look back and see where God was actually, had entered that room before we got there. And I think that with age and the longer you've been on the journey, the more times that you can actually see where he was there and where he went ahead of us. So I encourage you to look back and see how far you've come. I want you to look back and see at the times where you can see where God actually went ahead of you and entered that room before you even showed up.
I really like that. I think that sometimes while faith is for the future, I think sometimes it's developed by looking back and just seeing how many times you approached a situation or were put in a space where you thought you couldn't do it. We could never do this. And now we're on the other side of it. And sometimes it was graceful, sometimes it was not all that graceful, but we survived it. We got through it. And in the process of getting through it, we learned some things about ourselves. And it gives me hope. It gives me hope. As Karen's reading that passage, it reminds me of Jesus saying, in this world, you will experience hard things. But be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. And so what I hope you've seen through the process of these previous 6 lessons is that we have talked about several things, and all of those things are things that we have seen over the last 20 years of working with our families that can help improve a quality of life. And I hope that you can see as you look back, even though we've really tried to break them into bite-sized chunks, how they have all fit together to create kind of a path for us to go down. And so with that being said, I want to just remind you of those things that we have talked about so that maybe it does help you to see how they all fit together to create this life to the full in families like ours. So the first thing we talked about were these, we called them rules of the game. And if you remember what they were, the first one is that you as parents know best. because you know your kids better than anyone else, but you don't know everything, which means we need help. That's why we have doctors and teachers and friends and all of those people that make up Haley's team, is because we don't know everything. And then the second rule is that we as parents have to educate ourselves. What is available to us in the community? What can we know about the diagnosis or the struggle or whatever it is that our child faces, so that we know where to look for help, who to ask for help, and all of those kinds of things. The third rule I personally think is the most important one, and that is we have to have a sense of humor. We have to be able to laugh. We have to be able to laugh in the midst of hard things. We have to be able to laugh at the things that are happening to us, because that laughter is what takes us, it's a sign of acceptance and hope versus a sense of despair. And then the last rule is we have to take care of ourselves. If we are going to get Haley as far down the road of this journey as possible, the only way we're going to do that is to take care of ourselves. That's not just physical, that's mentally, that's emotionally, it's relationally. All of these pieces of taking care of ourselves allow us to be healthy parents, healthy advocates, and healthy spouses as well. And so what I hear more times than not in this space, rule number 4, is I don't have time. I want to tell you, take the time. Take the time. Do we have as much time as we would like? Probably not. But it has to be a part of our routine if we're going to stay healthy. So take the time to take care of yourselves. Second, we looked at our values and priorities, and that flows naturally, because once we learn the rules of the game, then we try to figure out what's important to us and why is it important to us. Well, those come from our values and from our priorities. And so we do the work to understand those things. And we hope that helps you to discover what you need to invest your time and energy in. And we hope that it allows you to say no to some things that might have been important at one time, but no longer are important to you because you just don't have the space. It can't be a priority anymore. An example of that for us is serving is one of our priorities and values, and the making of these videos is a representation of us serving you. And so we just, not to build ourselves up, but just to hold that out as we will create space in our lives to write and to create, because it's a part of who we are. And it's a part of who we want to be. And it's our gift not only to you, but to the world and back to God, because He built us this way. And then next, we encouraged you to create this endurance or stress mantra to help you manage those stressful situations that you find yourself in. And as you're hearing this, I would love for you to just raise your hand in your group if you're currently experiencing a stressful situation. And if you are, how is that mantra? Are you using it? Are you applying it in this setting so that you see, yes, it's hard. Yes, it's stressful. We're not saying that it's not. But when we use the answers to those 3 questions, what we now understand is that we bring gifts and talents, and we bring values and priorities to that stressful situation that helps us to understand and figure out what that next, just the next right thing to do is. And then when we look back and see all of the hard things that we've already been through, it gives us confidence that we can handle that next right thing. I personally, over the past year, have found that one thing to be so valuable. just to slow down enough, even in just a few seconds, to be able to kind of get my bearings and stay focused on what needed to happen next. These situations are going to come. There's no doubt. The question is, can we handle it? Well, the evidence of our lives and the evidence of your life says yes. How do I know? Because you're still here, and you're still going, and you're still doing it. And so I have great confidence in you to handle the next hard thing. And I hope that you will, if you don't have that same confidence in yourself, I hope you'll borrow it from us. And then lessons 4, 5, and 6 kind of all went together in seeing our kids and family situations with a realistic lens. We believe the key to this part of all of that teaching is to remember that God was not caught off guard the day our children were born. And if that's the case, then He created them exactly as He wanted them to be for a purpose that is grand and that is eternal. And because of that, there's great value there. And we just want to remember that. And because there's great value, then it's worth the effort to figure out the things that we do well and the things we don't do well, and to recruit people to share our vision for our kids, to help them be all that they can be. And we just believe that when we do these things, we will be able to see what we bring for the journey ahead, where we need help, where we need God's blessing. And that is the key to building that best possible life and that best possible team to produce that life that we can. When we put all of those things together, we have a roadmap. And why is a roadmap important? It allows us to check and see if we're on the right track, if we're headed in the right direction. Are we doing the right things? Not just for our kids with special needs, but also their brothers and sisters, and also for ourselves as parents and spouses and all of those things. And that we want to end with. That is the picture of faithfulness. And faithfulness is all that God ever requires of us.
See you guys next time.